Welcome into the Stack Shack Sports Show. Today we're going to do a fun little video, a way too early NFL predictions for 2024. The draft hasn't even happened yet. Free agency is just getting started. We don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to make some predictions anyways because it's fun. So we're here. We've got some tiers set up. We got our Super Bowl favorites, our Super Bowl contenders, some teams I think are going to be in the playoffs, some potential wild cards, definitely missing the playoff teams, mediocre, potentially some young but intriguing teams. These are kind of maybe my dark horses. I'm not really sure what to do with it. And then our number one pick contention. Who do I think is down in the dumps coming into next season? Let's just go in the random order that these pictures are in. Okay, Saints. I gotta say mediocre at best. Young but intriguing. I'm actually going to move it up here real quick because I think the young but intriguing category is for the teams that I just don't really know what to do with. Saints are not going to be good next season. I'm sorry. I think this is a situation where the head coach is on the hot seat. I was hyped for them with the Derek Carr addition. It just didn't play out. I don't think the coach is right. I don't think they're performing up to what we should expect from the roster. I'm putting them at mediocre at best. All right, the Dolphins made the playoffs this year, had a tough draw of going to Kansas City, struggling in the cold once again. I think they're, a wild card team is probably the best fit for them. I don't think they're winning a division, right? I think they're a wild card team. Maybe they're a playoff team. A potential wild card is a playoff team, right? So you could put them in either of these categories. I should probably put them and move them up to a playoff team. I think they'll be a playoff team again. That offense is great. They're really solid in the regular season, early in the season. I don't see them going on too much further beyond that. Ravens. This is a tough one for me because I thought this season was their year. I did. I thought they were Super Bowl favorites this year. I'm going to put them in that Super Bowl contender spot for now. We'll get through some more teams, and I might shake things up a little bit later, but for now, I do think they're a Super Bowl contender. I think they're in that mix. If Lamar is healthy, he's explosive. Do I think they're a favorite? No. Until I see something from Lamar in the playoffs against really good teams, it's starting to be that we know how to beat Lamar now, right? He had a good playoff run this season, absolutely. That was good. But then, struggled. You run into the Chiefs, you should have had it. Your defense holds the Chiefs to no scores in the second half, basically. I'm going to put him in the Super Bowl contenders for now. We'll see. I might change my mind by the end of this video. Cincinnati Bengals. I think they're one of the Super Bowl favorites. This is a team that went 9-8 last season without Joe Burrow. This is a team that has made it to a Super Bowl. And this is a team that entered this offseason with the 6th most cap space of any team. I know there was a lot of concern. Are they going to lose T. Higgins? We'll see. They haven't lost him yet. We'll have to find out. I think the Bengals have to be in that Super Bowl favorites conversation. Call me a homer all you want. When Joe Burrow's been healthy, they've made it to the AFC Championship or to the Super Bowl. I think that's a Super Bowl favorite. They're a favorite to make it to the Super Bowls. That's what I'm putting there. Super Bowl contenders? Sure. Baltimore Ravens. Cincinnati Bengals, I think, are a step above that, as long as Joe Burrow stays healthy. Hopefully he will next season. Broncos. They're missing the playoffs. Their division is too hard, and their current situation with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton is too dysfunctional. And they were too good last year to be, at the top of the draft. I just don't see them, as they're assembled right now, making the playoffs. especially when a team like the Chiefs within their own division just won a Super Bowl, and a team like the Chargers just got Jim Harbaugh. So we expect them to be much improved. There's just not room for the Broncos. Giants. I think they're number one pick contention. They're gonna be bad. I'm sorry, they ruined their team by signing Daniel Jones to that big of a contract. It was a disaster. They're bad. Minnesota Vikings. Mediocre at best. They're gonna probably lose Kirk Cousins. Gonna put him in a bit of a bind. We saw what they were without him this season. They're mediocre at best. Okay? The Los Angeles Rams. I think they're a playoff team again. I think Stafford, Donald, McVay, I think they got another year or two in them to be a playoff team. Do I think they're a Super Bowl contender? No, I don't think so. I'm trying to keep the Super Bowl favorites and Super Bowl contenders somewhat limited. I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender. But definitely a playoff team. I could definitely see it. The Bucs, we'll have to see what happens with Baker Mayfield, but I think they're a potential wild card. Although, when you look at their division, at the moment, they feel like a playoff team. I'm going to put them in the wild card category because I don't think they're of the caliber of a Dolphins or a Rams. But because their division is so weak, right? I got the Saints here. We're going to have the Falcons. Now, the Falcons could do something interesting in the offseason. We'll have to see how it goes. But even then, they got a first-year head coach. We'll have to see how that all plays out. Lions. I think they're one of the Super Bowl favorites. They're not really going to lose a bunch of people this offseason, it doesn't look like. They looked really good last year. I think you got to put them in that Super Bowl favorites conversation coming out of the NFC. Again, Super Bowl favorites is going to be a limited number of teams, but I think the Lions are one of them. Bears. You know, I think we're going to have to say young but intriguing. Looks like they're going to get a quarterback in the draft, which is going to make them young. We don't know how the rookie quarterback's going to play. Is it going to be Houston last season? Or is it going to be Carolina last season, right? We don't know how that will all play out. You got to put them in the young but intriguing category. They're going to be interesting, right? Coach kind of fighting for his life there. They're interesting. But I don't think they're making the playoffs. We'll see them. They're young. They're interesting. San Francisco 49ers. It's tough here. It is. I think because I'm putting the Lions in the Super Bowl favorites category, we're going to have to say San Francisco's a Super Bowl contender. Absolutely, they can make the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy's still not costing them a bunch of money, right? The team is mostly staying together, but it is starting to get old. This really, to me, felt like the year most people were mostly healthy coming into this Super Bowl. I think we're going to have to say Super Bowl contenders, maybe not Super Bowl favorites. I think the Lions become a little bit more of a favorite. They really outplayed the 49ers for most of that game. Kind of fell apart at the end and San Francisco wins. I think the Lions continued their trajectory. Look all right. Eagles. Wow. I mean, early on in the season last year, they were a Super Bowl favorite, and then they fell apart. I do think they're probably in this wild card or playoff team realm. I'm going to put them in the wild card because I still don't know what happened at the end of the season. How did this team go from winning everything to losing everything instantly? Doesn't make sense to me. I'm shocked. Don't know what's going on. So I've got to put them in the potential wild card situation. I do think they can make the playoffs. So you got to put them in potential wild card. Raiders. this one's interesting. Jimmy G getting suspended is not great, but he also was not super productive. I think you might want to put them in the young but intriguing because they have a young, intriguing head coach. But I think they're going to miss the playoffs, just like the Broncos are, because of the division they're in. I'm giving a little spoilers away for what I think about the Chiefs and the Chargers, right? I can't put them in here because I don't think they're beating the Chiefs or the Chargers. So they're going to miss the playoffs. Interesting, but missing the playoffs. Green Bay. Green Bay's a playoff team. I might even put them in the Super Bowl contender realm. I don't know if I'm getting overhyped for Jordan Love, so I'm going to put him in the playoff category. But they're thinking about it. They're thinking about that Super Bowl contender. Jordan Love, again, had a good playoff run, looked good, outplayed San Francisco again. Can they repeat that? I don't know. We'll have to see. It's tight between, are they a Super Bowl contender? Yeah, the more I talk about it, I got to put them there. They outplayed San Francisco in the playoff game most of the game. Again, they didn't win, but I think they're in that Super Bowl contenders, right? Washington. I got to put them in the missing the playoffs. Honestly, I think they fit better in the young but intriguing. Again, new head coach, probably going to be drafting a quarterback. They're going to be interesting. It is possible they make the playoffs. Absolutely. Absolutely possible. But they're too young for me to know for sure, so we're going to put them in that young but intriguing category. That's where we put those kinds of quarterbacks. All right, Arizona. I'm going to put them mediocre at best. I just don't think they're that good. I know Kyler Murray will be healthy next season. I'm sorry. They're just, to me, they're not beating the Rams. You look at their division, right? I don't think they're competing with San Francisco. They're going to be mediocre at best. I'm not a Kyler Murray fan or a believer, so you got to put them down there. Steelers. I think they're missing the playoffs next season. They are not making, in my opinion, good decisions on the quarterback position. Now, will they trade for Justin Fields? There's some wild rumors that they might. But Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph is not that's not going to get you to the playoffs. I'm sorry. Will they probably have another winning season? Yeah, it's Mike Tomlin. They always have a winning season. But they're going to miss the playoffs, I think, because their division is really good, right? We got 2 Super Bowl contenders out of that division already. I can't put them also in the playoffs. Bills. You got to put them in the Super Bowl contender realm. Okay? I think the offensive coordinator changes last season ended up playing out pretty darn well for them. So there you go. Bills, Super Bowl contenders, absolutely. They were close to Kansas City. They can't get past Kansas City. So I can't put them in the favorites category. They've never beaten Kansas City. Bengals have, right? So if you're talking favorites and contenders out of that conference, I don't think you can put a team up there if they haven't beaten Kansas City. Atlanta. I think they're going to actually be in the young but intriguing category. We'll see what they do at quarterback. A lot of people thinking they're going to pull in a veteran, maybe a Kirk Cousins. Justin Fields was rumored there early, although I've seen those rumors kind of die down a little bit more recently. We'll have to see what they are. I think they're a young team. I think they're an interesting team. Got a first-year head coach. But I don't know. I don't know. We haven't seen enough. We haven't seen them be, successful for me to say, oh, they're a wild card. I don't think when you look at the roster, they're a bad roster. They're stuck. They're just young and intriguing. Seattle. I think Seattle's a potential wild card team. I do. I think that defense is young. I think it's good, and I like their hire in the offseason. Not much more to say in Seattle. They got to find a quarterback situation, but Geno, I mean, you can make the playoffs with that defense. You can make the playoffs. Patriots, yeah, definitely in the number one pick contention. I am sorry, Gerard Mayo. I wish the best for you, but you inherited kind of a mess in New England, right? This is a team with very few offensive playmakers. It's just not pretty. It's just not pretty. Definitely in that number one pick contention. Browns. I'm going to put them in potential wild card. Okay? That division is really, really good. Deshaun Watson is by far from my favorite player, but they've got enough weapons around him. They're probably a wild card team, potentially. They're potentially a wild card team. I don't think I want to put them in the missing the playoffs. Again, you can see that division, Bengals, Ravens kind of running away with it. I think the Browns could be good. I mean, this was a division. Bengals finished last. That's another reason why I put them in the Super Bowl favorites, is because they get a last place division schedule next season, which should bode well for them to maybe get a bye, maybe get some home field advantage or things like that in the playoffs. This is a division that didn't have a team with a losing record in it, right? 9-8 for the Bengals, and they were last. So I think it's possible that we get 3 teams from that division in the playoffs. It's happened before, right? So I think definitely potential wild card. Texans. Okay. Where do you put the Texans? Are they a Super Bowl contender? Man, it's tempting. I'll be honest. It's tempting. It really, really is tempting. They're not a Super Bowl favorite. Super Bowl contender, though? It's just a tough conference. I think I'm going to have to put them in the playoff team category. Again, do I think the Texans are more of a Super Bowl contender than the Bills or the Ravens? I don't think so. And again, I don't want to put everybody up here. You know, sure, anybody could win the Super Bowl, but I'm going to have to leave them in the playoff teams category. Kansas City. You got to put them as a Super Bowl favorites. In fact, I'm going to move them over to the left. These aren't really in order of my rankings, but for this one, we're definitely putting Kansas City in that spot of honor, so to speak. I don't know, Bengals, Lions, you can argue about that. Kansas City is back-to-back Super Bowl champions. They're going for a three-peat. All you need to know about Kansas City is Patrick Mahomes still the quarterback? Yes. Is Andy Reid still the head coach? Yes. Is Steve Spagnuolo still the defensive coordinator? Yes. If those 3 things are still yes at the end of the season, they are the Super Bowl favorite. That's just how it goes. Look out. Kansas City's coming. Only one quarterback still in the league has ever beaten Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Joe Burrow. Again, why did I put Baltimore in Super Bowl contenders and not in favorites? Because they've never beaten Kansas City. The Bengals, you could move them down to Super Bowl contenders, but they did beat Kansas City, and I want to have a couple of teams from each conference up there in the Super Bowl favorites conversation. So there you go. Kansas City has to be our number 1 Super Bowl favorite. And if you're saying no, you're crazy. They've won back-to-back. They've made it to the conference championship game 6 straight times, I think it is. That's crazy. You got to put them there. All right, Cowboys, America's team. They're going to be terrible. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. I made a mistake last season with the Cowboys. Preseason, I said, I don't trust this team. I don't think it's going to go well. Then they proved me a bit wrong. So I finally trusted them in the postseason, and didn't go well. I think they are a playoff team. I'm not putting them in the Super Bowl contenders category. Green Bay, San Francisco look better to me. They do. They look better to me. Chargers. I think definitely going to be the most improved team this season, with Justin Herbert hopefully making it through a season without getting hurt. Jim Harbaugh, a competent coach, being added. Can I put him in Super Bowl contenders? Be my third AFC team there? Do I put him as Super Bowl favorites? No. I'm going to put him as a playoff team. I think they're a playoff team. But we've seen the Chargers on paper look fantastic many times before. I am not trusting them to be a Super Bowl contender until I've seen some gameplay. I got to see him on the field. So we're going to put him in a playoff team. I do think they make the playoffs. It's why I've got the Raiders and the Broncos missing the playoffs. Jets. What to do with the Jets? I think they're a potential wild card team. I think that's fair, right? And if you're wondering, why are there so many teams up here? Well, it's because there's a lot of playoff slots, okay? With the wild cards expanded the way they have been the last few seasons. Again, potential wild card teams. We're going to have a few teams in here. I think the Jets are a potential wild card team should things go their way. But it's going to be tough. Can Aaron Rodgers bounce back? How does he look? I don't know. Probably a potential wild card team. Carolina. I think mediocre at best is fair. Bryce Young has not shown a lot. Now, they are bringing in what I think was one of the better head coaching hires of the offseason, especially for the situation. They bring in a head coach who last season fixed Baker Mayfield and the season before fixed Geno Smith. Can he do it with Bryce Young? Maybe. But Carolina does not have Mike Evans or DK Metcalf. They just don't have the weapons. So how the draft goes, how the free agency potentially goes, can they get some offensive weapons? That might change this. Obviously, we're doing this way early, so we don't know what's happening. Who knows? Training camp, Patrick Mahomes might get hurt and we ruin this whole entire projections, right? We'll have to see, but right now, today, in the middle of February, that's where I'm leaning. Tennessee. They're another mediocre at best team to me. I don't think they have the quarterback situation figured out. I don't think they're particularly great. I think they're mediocre at best. You might put them here. Because do I really think they're this bad? Probably not. They're probably just in this missing the playoff contention, right? They're not going to be a playoff team. They're going to win a few games. They're going to lose a lot of games. That's how it's going to go. All right, Indianapolis. Indianapolis is just an interesting team to me. I almost made the playoffs last season. And Anthony Richardson was very fun to watch at the beginning of the year before he got hurt. Can he stay healthy? I don't think he can, but we're going to put him in the young but intriguing. If Anthony Richardson stays healthy for a whole season, I don't know. That's a weird team to me. It is. It's a weird team. I think they could be good. I absolutely think they could be good, but they're too young, and his injury concerns are too high for me to know and feel confident picking them to make the playoffs. Which leaves us with one team left. One team left to rank. Jacksonville Jaguars. What do we feel about that? I think potential wild card, you might say they're a playoff team. I was very disappointed last season, which is concerning. Like, what happened? They should have been good. They were good at the beginning of the year. Now they kind of fell apart. Similar to the Eagles. So I think we're going to have to put them in that category. And they didn't have as much success as the Eagles. I think they're a potential wild card team. But let's be real here. Trevor Lawrence didn't look great at the end of the season. So what's going on there? I don't know. So there's my projections. Let's take another look through. I think I'm going to say, let's put two teams. Let's put two teams from each conference in that Super Bowl favorites category. I'm going to move Green Bay up in there. I think they've got the pieces. They've got a young wide receiver core that's getting better, young quarterback who's getting better, a defense that played fairly well, that has had opportunities. I think they can fix their problems on defense. There you go. Super Bowl favorites. To me, it's Kansas City, Detroit, Cincinnati, and Green Bay. Kind of wild that Green Bay and Detroit are in the same division. It's a bit of a wild one, right? But I think both teams are really solid. So there's my 4 Super Bowl favorites. There's 3 other teams that I think are contenders. I think the AFC is better than the NFC, so I added an extra team from the AFC here. Bills, Ravens, 49ers. 49ers aren't going anywhere. Man, it felt like last season was their year. It didn't happen. Can they do it again? Teams that lose the Super Bowl don't always have the most success the next season. I think we're going to have to put them in the Super Bowl contenders category and not Super Bowl favorites. My playoff teams, I think Dolphins, Rams, Texans, Cowboys, Chargers. These are some playoff teams to me. Then we got potential wild cards. Obviously, with how this is set up, some of these teams you might want to put into playoff teams. Like these are some division winners potentially. There's division winners here. But we got to give it some time. I'm just putting a bunch of teams in this potential wild card. These are the teams that I'm like, yeah, I think they're a playoff team. I'm not sure where they fit. Will they win their division? Maybe. Will they make it in the wild card? Very possible. So I think these are my kind of locks for the playoff. These are the teams I'm like, I feel like these teams should make the playoffs. Potentially. These teams got a shot at it, right? I don't see anybody else making the playoffs. Okay? There's some young teams that are intriguing. Mediocre at best, and it's a two-way dogfight down there at the bottom between the Giants and the Patriots as to who is going to get the number 1 pick. They're both going to be bad next year. I'm sorry. Sorry to Giants fans. Sorry to Patriots fans. Not really sorry to Patriots fans. You guys have got enough Super Bowls recently. You can dwell at the bottom for a moment. Wish the best for Mayo. I think there's some really interesting storylines. I think the Raiders could be an improved team. We'll have to see how that goes. This Kansas City, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos, and the Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns divisions. Those are 2 divisions in the AFC that are just loaded. Now, Green Bay, Detroit, fantastic. Bears, Vikings, pretty bad. So we'll have to see. These are my picks. Let me know in the comments down below why you think I'm crazy. Who am I overvaluing? Who am I undervaluing and not thinking about yet? I want to hear your thoughts below, and we'll see you tomorrow.